first of all, a comprehensive economic development strategy, and I won't read all this, is not just about data. Your name again was?
Cullen.
Cullen. It's about the experiences that Cullen has had, understanding those and others, okay? And the influences of events, people, perceptions, and attitudes. Okay, you got to include that all in the way you think and look at this. So we are aware of, like, the fire at the Brook House, okay, the devastating fire in that whole block. We're aware of the impact of Hurricane Irene. Those communities all along Route 9 here that were significantly devastated through that. We also are very much of the post-VY world, okay, Vermont Yankee. We're also aware that people I'll read this one, perceptions and attitudes about what constitutes appropriate economic development and growth are not universally shared in Vermont, and in particular southeastern Vermont. Many people have expressed a preference for no economic growth. And all I can tell you is, I keep explaining to people all across the country, there is no such thing as the status quo. You either move ahead or you fall behind. That is true in all aspects of life. Doing nothing is a decision, okay? And it's usually a decision that, one of the great examples I give, our firm has been heavily involved, interesting you bring broadband up, we've been heavily involved in most of the major information highway and broadband projects in this country as advisors to governments and private companies. And I was testifying at a state legislature in the mid-1990s, and this old curmudgeon, like 80 years old, was a senator, and he was dressed in his Big Smiths and his plaid shirt with a tie and everything, and smoking this big cigar, and he weighs about 300 pounds. And this young analyst was testifying, and he asked me a question, and he said, don't you think that this broadband thing is like beta versus VHS? And I said, I'm lost. I'm not sure where you're going with this. He said, well, everybody thought beta was great, but VHS won. So shouldn't we wait to see who wins before we do something? Now this is the 30-year-old or 28-year-old, okay? The curmudgeon who's sitting next to my right, who's chairman of the State Finance Committee of the State Senate, says, I think I understand what you're saying, young man. If this was the Stone Age and my neighbor brought a wheel to me, I would say, I don't know. I think we had better wait till we figure out whether that works or not. So by the time he got everybody on wheels, they'd be long gone and I'd still be here. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling us that the state ought to be doing? And so we need to be aware of what it is that we're doing, and we can't just stay where we are. It doesn't work. The world's moving. Doesn't mean we have to do things we don't like to do, necessarily. These slides, the colors are going to be lit. Don't pay attention to color, pay attention to the percentages. Okay, I'm going to move over here, I believe. I think control that in panel. I move over here, I can point to this. Unless somebody actually has an electronic pointer with them. I don't have mine with me. Okay, what we're showing here is, this is Wyndham, this is the US. What we're looking at here is that, if you'll notice in Wyndham, we have fewer. Pat, can you tell me what color is this up here?
Green.
It's green and it relates to what age group?
Green, it's 20, it relates to the under 18.
Under 18, okay, so here we've got 20% of the population under 18, 24% over here in the US. And you keep going, but over here you see this 34% versus 26%. Guess what that one is? This is, this 34% is what?
It's purple and it's 45 to 64.
45 to 64, we're really doing well in that area. Okay? 25 to 44 is which color?
is the red,
Okay.
22 and 27.
22 and 27, so we get 27. So in every statistic in terms of demographics, what's happening in this area is you were winning at the older age and losing at the younger age.
Yes. All right.
So, what that basically tells us is, and this may be easier to read, is that where does the prime workforce for your community is sitting right in here. Okay? 20 to 44. Okay? And between 1990 and 2010, we lost 14% here, we lost another 27% here. Okay?
So thank you for being here, Colin.
Yeah. So, although we might like to become a senior community, the simple fact of the matter is, if you don't have prime workforce population, what does that mean for getting companies to be here? Does that make it a little more difficult? Okay, so it isn't just about economics, it's about demographics. There's a very famous person years ago that said, demography is destiny. Okay? And if you don't get this right, you're not going to do very well. So we've got to concentrate on the demographics of the region, and by the way, you can change direction. You can change direction. It is not, you are not just dealing with a situation where, sorry.
No.
Okay, if you can control that, I can stop doing that. Okay, what you'll see here is, notice that total employment in this region went from 18,000 to 33,000, 2,000. Look at what happens in 2000. Everything starts to level off. Okay? No growth in employment. And yes, go ahead. What's also important is that wages start to decline. Okay, 38 to 36. So the actual earnings, the real average earnings per job is declining. Now, that makes no sense. From 2000 to 2011, that wages would go down, the way the economy. So not only do you have a leveling off, but you have a decline in the average wage that's being paid. And what is very interesting is that what's happening here as the wage, this first one here is where wages are beginning to decline. What you're also seeing is that from 1970 to 2011, per capita income grew from 20,000 to 39,000. So what's actually happening is, per capita is the amount of income earned by each person, okay? That's going up, but wages are going down. That's saying to you that the income that's coming into the family is not earned income. That means it's more retirement income, it's more subsidies and support for people who can't get. Go ahead.
There's no inflation adjustment in there?
There is an inflation adjustment. Oh yeah, this is real. This is inflation adjusted. Okay, so the other thing we're looking at here is this blue area. This blue is how much of the sources of personal income come from earned wages and private wages. Okay, this so you'll notice over here at the U.S. level in 2011 it was 60.5% was earned in the private sector. Over here, notice that in the U.S. we had 16.2% from just interest and rent. Over here is 19.1%. So what we're finding here is that the actual income that is being earned here is not only not coming from a growth in earned wages, we have a declining amount of earnings coming from private wages. And what that says to you, that doesn't mean that public sector jobs are not important and not good. What it says is if you are not earning wages, if 60% or less of the wages earned in your community are coming from non-private sector wage sources, it means people's sense of taking risk and being entrepreneurial and understanding what it takes to be at risk. They're going to end up on the select boards. They're going to end up being the mayors, the town commissioners, and all that. And so as a result, you're going to have, it's not that people don't want to take risk, they don't have the experience. So you need to have an economy that is growing the percentage of wage earners from the private sector. And that doesn't mean private sector people have all the answers. It just means you need enough people experiencing risk in your community to be able to take risk. Okay, does that make any sense? Okay, so go ahead. Pardon? Did I hear somebody?
I was saying that you need a lot of money to, somebody has to have a lot of money to back that.
Well, that's true, but you don't have to have a lot of money. I mean, you can be making cabinets and be in the private sector. You can, okay, you can be a carpenter and be in the private sector. You can be a plumber and be in the private sector. But the problem is the amount of jobs that are available now are less. And the ones that left that were paying higher wages are being replaced by the ones that are lower wage. Okay, and that's, we can go past this, please. Okay, so those are the statistics. Thanks, Bob. Okay, so those are the demographic and the economic statistics that are governing your area. So what I want to focus on right now is just the strategic location. Okay, you're sitting in Windham County is sitting in a region, and it's right next to New Hampshire, near New York, right next to Massachusetts. Okay, you're part of a greater region. You're within 2 hours of Albany. You're within, what is it, 2 hours and 20 minutes of Providence, Rhode Island, a bunch of areas in between. So you're relatively near urban areas. You're also part of a larger labor shed. Okay, you've got people commuting back and forth between all these areas. And Brattleboro is the second largest employment center in the region. So there are people that this Brattleboro is the second yellow, you can't see it, but it's the second one down on the line, and there are, the actual number there is around, I think Keene is 18,000 and Brattleboro is 10,000. Everything else is below that. So Brattleboro is the second largest employment center in the region. So if you think your town doesn't have any relationship or connection to Brattleboro, think again, because that's a major employment center in the region. Also, the people that are employed in these different areas are coming from Massachusetts, they're coming from New Hampshire, they're coming from across the mountain. People are going back and forth, north and south, east and west. So you're part of a larger labor shed. And what that means is you're competing for where people earn money from and how, at what level they are. Notice Windham County over here on the left is at the lowest area. It's actually about equal with Maine in terms of the average wage. It's a little bit less than Maine, but it's lower than the rest of Vermont, substantially lower than Massachusetts, substantially lower than New Hampshire, and substantially lower than the U.S. And if we go further into these statistics, and I'll read these to you because you can't see them on the smaller screen. Each of these columns, this is no high school diploma, high school graduate, some college or associate degree, bachelor's degree, grad or professional degree. Up here is Windham, down here is Hampshire, Massachusetts, here is Cheshire where Keene is. And what this is showing is, if you have no high school diploma, the range of income earning for a high school diploma person is 21,000, 23,000, pretty close, right? Okay, go over here. Some college or associate degree, 26,000 to 35,000. Bachelor's degree, 32,000 to 42,000. Grad or professional degree, 42,000 to 55,000. So, if a job being offered in Northampton to somebody with a professional degree at 55, and a job being offered to somebody in this region at 42 with a graduate degree, where are they going to go? It's even closer than Boston, right? Okay? So, and if you're in Keene, okay, the difference between Keene is, third line, 53,000. So there's a huge wage disparity going on, which means this region has a harder time attracting people. And if you have an associate degree or more, that's going to, and there are a lot of people we've interviewed that are very concerned as parents who have graduate degrees or undergraduate degrees who are not earning at the level they thought they could. And they're telling their children to leave because of that experience. Okay, so we've got to find jobs and find companies and find experiences where the value of that education is valued. We can't grow an economy on wage. I'll just skip past this. And I'll go to this next one. Okay. This one is hard to read, but I will, by the way, this whole slide deck is available online. I believe these are, oh God, this makes it real difficult. I'll turn this around. What this graph shows is, you may not be able to read this. The top 4 bars are red, and that's population employment. This is basically showing the difference between the U.S. and Wyndham, and there are only 4 green bars in here for Wyndham. Everything else is red. That says that on every one of the measurements from population, employment, personal income, average annual wages, unemployment rate, percent of sole proprietor employment, percent of service-related jobs, percent of non-service-related jobs, in every category except for the Wyndham region is substantially underperforming the rest of the country. Okay? Which means you're not even a trend, you're below trend. So what this is saying is that the goals, you see why we now have improved wage parity with surrounding labor shed as a goal? Increase the size and quality of work, increase the population proportion of 25 to 40-year-olds from 23 to 28% of the population. See why we have those statistics in there in the plan? Okay, and create an entrepreneurial environment. It's all of this data that we're seeing and this trend line that we believe has to be reversed. You just can't go out and say you're going to create 6 new companies in this region if you don't deal with the basic demographic trends and the basic economic trends in the region. In order to do that, I'll read these off for you. This SeVEDS project is setting goals. The performance metrics we're looking at are actually maintaining the population through 2017 instead of seeing a decline, which is an improvement. We're looking at increasing the labor force participation rate, and that means anybody between the ages of 16 and 64, which is the conventional measurement, although those of us who are over 65, a lot more of us are working than we expected today. But what we're trying to do, the key is to get more of those people employed in that age group of 15 or 16 to 64. We're also looking at increasing the average wage, and we're looking at growing regional GDP by $430 million annually by 2017. So if there's $430 million more in the Wyndham economy, what does that do for your businesses? Okay, what does it do? Who's here that's on a select board for a town? Okay, what does that do for a town if you have $430 million more money floating around in wages being earned in Wyndham County?
People who buy property.
And that raises tax revenue. Okay. Now you think everybody and the schools. What happens with it? I see another school principal back here. Okay. What happens to the school? If $430 million more wages are being earned and we are attracting more 25 to 44-year-olds, what does that do for schools?
More kids, more income, more money.
More money and more income, okay. And so actually we're looking at increasing the number of 20 to 44-year-old employment by 2,100 in that 5-year period. So those are the kind of metrics that are being used to drive this economy. And what we're going to do right now, I want you to think about what you just heard, because I've just thrown a lot of data at you. Okay? take a break.